Right, Patrick, welcome. I would say that you're probably now ahead of the game in terms of this will be our second podcast and we've only been doing this for 6 months. So I don't know what that says about our content schedule, but I appreciate taking the time. We caught up just before the holidays and we're right around the 6 month mark. And I thought it would be a good time to just sort of review what's going on, lessons learned and progress that has been made. As I said before we jumped on, we don't have a plan. So everybody's just going to join us on the journey. So we're 6 months in, thereabouts. I have your check-in sheet in front of me. I'll not get into that right away. I would ask you for, so far, what your thoughts are on the progress that we've been able to make.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is when you're like 6 months, I'm like having to count on my fingers and my toes, like, holy, is it really 6 months? I've been so focused on trying to knock everything out of the park every week, or even the weeks where I don't even come close, trying to focus on what I'm learning that week for things that didn't go well, and the race schedule, and then just setting new goals. So it's pretty wild to think that it's actually 6 months already.
It feels like, and I've said this like from the second and third week, like I feel like you've just been around forever. I feel like it's been years, not 6 months. So again, I don't know what that says about you or what it says about me. So let's take it back.
Yeah.
I guess we'll give some further context. You're not a man that is inactive. You know, you've been quite health conscious. You've done many, many different things. If anybody wants to get the full backstory, we'll link your podcast episode that we shot here in September for all of that. But let's have a look at, I guess 6 months ago. I have your the three short-term goals and the three long-term goals that you have, so we can review them. But sort of where were we at 6 months ago before we kick things off?
Let me see. Yeah, 6 months ago, it was early summer, I think it was. The previous year, I had lost, what did I lose? About 25-ish pounds. And that was just straight up going from not running in years to running, doing a marathon in October. And I think I ran 28 to 30 some miles a week, which was awesome. The weight came off, and then the winter hit.
Just for context, so like, give me the start weight, because I think that this is a vital piece of information. Whenever you said you started running, in the nicest way possible, and I say this with love, you weren't exactly built like a runner.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah. So I'm 6'4", and I was 268 pounds last year when I started, and then I think I ran my marathon around 242 or 245-ish. So definitely not built like a runner. And then the weight came back on over the winter, and I chatted with you in the winter, and I kind of always, like, I've focused on sleep. I get my sleep dialed in, and then I go focus on something else. Like last year was just trying to get miles in and cardio in. I never could bring all these like healthy habits together at one time. And when I hit, I think it was June or July, when I reached back out to you, I was at a point where I knew I needed a little bit more accountability to make sure that I found the way to bring all these things together, and then start fine tuning them. And that's kind of, I hit a point where I pushed, I think, my success as far as I could without having some accountability, even in the community aspect I've mentioned of, I live in a pretty remote area, work from home. So I'm not like in an office, or I don't go to a gym where there's a community or anything like that. So having a community that I could join of like-minded folks focused around health was something that I figured would be take me to the next level for my health and training and the things I wanted to achieve.
In your own words, you had an idiot for a coach before?
Yeah, I said this a few times. So I heard years ago somebody say, if you're coaching yourself, you've got an idiot for a coach. And that, I think a lot of folks in the cybersecurity space, we're smart enough to solve problems. Like, that's what we do. we either identify problems or create problems to solve them, depending on what we're doing. But that aspect, I had enough awareness to know that there's only so much sometimes I can do coaching myself, even with the high standards I have for myself. Having somebody else to have that outside perspective and the expertise and experience of seeing it applied in other people, I thought was something that I needed at that point to really dial in and keep pushing things.
Nice, fair. And again, for just further context, because I know that this is valuable, last year was your first year of business, running your own business?
Yeah. So I had a side hustle basically for 8 years while I always had a job in the corporate world. And I hit a point where I was getting burned out, not satisfied with the corporate job, and decided to transition to the 100% self-employed and make my side hustle a legitimate business. And so I was 8 months into that, come last summer too, where I realized like I was making progress, but I needed to be firing on all cylinders health-wise, even for my business, to be able to push myself a little bit further. And so that factored into.
Yeah, fair. Well, let's talk about the nitty gritty then. So short-term goals that you set, and it was the 22nd of June that we started. Number 1, consistent daily routine in place. Check. Number 2, 10 to 15 pounds lighter before marathon in October, 11th of October. Check.
Yeah.
Establish a good blend of strength training and running. Check. Long-term goals, so this is 6 to 12 months. 235 pounds or reduced waist size that has minimal fat. Definitely a check. Currently, your current weight showing your check-in sheet here is 223. So we've definitely ticked that box. Feel good, positive, and energetic coming out of winter. We're not out of winter, but we're in the depths of it. Are you feeling good, positive, and energetic?
Yeah, I would say I'm 75% since we're in the throes of winter where I'm at. It's interesting this go round because I can, like today, I was telling you I caught a cold from an event that I went to over the weekend, and woke up today really low energy. And when I start to look at my business goals, it's a little daunting when you look at a massive goal. It's like, how do you get to the top of the mountain? You know, and you're looking at it, you're like, holy shit, that's a long ways up there. Kind of had one of those moments this morning, but it was nice as I was working through writing down a few things. I was like, you know, I've been in this situation before, previous winters, where it kind of gets to me and then it adds up over the winter. And then I come out like a little dissatisfied with being a little gloomy. But this time around, I feel like I'm better equipped. Like I know exactly, like, you know what? I'm going to jump on the treadmill and get some steps in while I do some work. I'm going to fire up the heater in the garage to get my lift in today. And then I'm going to make a point to jump in the sauna. So I feel good. And then my nutrition is a lot more dialed in, where today is like last winter, I probably would have ate my emotions away today. Like, oh, it's cold out. Woe is me. But I do have a latte in front of me that's got a little bit more calories, but I'm a much more better equipped where I'm not going to just eat everything away today. It's going to be hit my macro goals, my calorie goals. And I actually am looking forward to that, where I'm at that phase now where the Hunger Games is becoming more fun.
Yeah. I think a lot more in control, I would say, is probably the best way to phrase it. Looking back, I wonder if there, maybe you have a mental note of this, of like, if we could look at the past 6 months and sort of like phase it out as lessons learned. So like the initial, and I will say this, and I've said this to you before, like, you know, whenever we had that initial call, I give you the set up the Google Drive folder, and I was like, look, there's 3 folders here now and your check-in sheet, feel free to add to it. And then I clicked in it the next day and there was like 12 folders of all the history of everything that you've ever done in terms of health and fitness, every aura map, every physique picture. I'm like, okay, this guy's serious. But if we think about that, like initially, I would look at it as probably the time from when we started the Belfast event is probably about 3 months. Would that be a fair sort of, like, if we were to bracket things off, would that give us a decent bracket?
Yeah, I think so. Because it was really training up for Belfast, and then
mm-hmm.
the marathon was a few weeks after I got home from Belfast.
Mm-hmm. In that time, so say I'm just looking at that, it was bang on 12 weeks, and then it was into the event. So we did 4 weeks of habit stacking, and then we moved into a fat loss phase. What did you learn in that time?
Now it does feel like it's 6 months has gone by, and it feels more like it's been a year trying to think back. Well, I remember initially the cardio wasn't a problem, like getting in the minutes of cardio because I had been doing so much running, and I have a running coach. Because again, be an idiot if I tried to coach myself on training for a marathon. But then I had to start setting the time aside to get the cardio in, plus the lifts, the 3 lifts a week. And that was a little bit of just marking off the time. And once I got into the routine of that, and kind of juggling, like, did I like doing my cardio before I got my lift in? Or some days could I do my lift and then do cardio afterwards? That wasn't too bad. The nutrition piece was definitely the journey that I would say I'm definitely still on as well. Where at first I was like, oh, I don't have to get, like, I measure so much stuff in my day job, because we're always looking at logs or data or whatever it is, where I'm like, I don't want to have that in my life when it comes to food. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be, I just want to not have to use my brain basically for some stuff in my day to day. So I started out, I'd measure my protein just with the palm of my hand. Like, all right, if I have about, half of my hand of steak or venison or chicken, that's, about 6 ounces or something. And I was doing that for the first probably 2 months.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, it worked. Like, if we're looking at 2 months, we lost 20 pounds in that first sort of 8-week period there or thereabouts. So potentially not scientific or, fully accurate, but worked at the time.
Yeah. And it was good progress in the sense that it kind of got me to step back away from my own stubbornness and be like, oh, well, shit, if this is working and it's working this well, like, how well could it work if I got a little bit more scientific or precise with it? So that's where I think I asked you, like, do you have a food scale you recommend? And then I started measuring everything to the point where I almost was remiss about going to Belfast without my food scale. And I have to not to get a travel one just because be some big American restaurants pulling out a food scale. I was like, I'll have enough first impressions to make, so I won't do it with a food scale. But then what I realized is I was overestimating, which kind of blew my mind, where I'm like, wait, so I can actually eat more protein and get more in than I actually thought I was. And I was like, well, I guess I could eat more and maybe I'll still lose weight. So at first I was like, is this really going to work? But no, the weight kept dropping. I was getting more food in for the calories every day. So that was really helpful. And then, I knew one of my triggers for eating was a little bit of the emotional side. Like if I had a rough day, or if I had something I hadn't solved yet and I was kind of pondering, like, how am I going to solve this?
A snack is the solution.
A snack.
To the problem.
Yeah, a snack or a big meal. And then also on the flip side, like positive, it's not always negative emotions. I think that sometimes folks, like, emotional eating is always, it's negative. For me, sometimes it was positive. Like if I had a success, like a big event that went well that I was doing for work, or I landed a contract or something, I might celebrate, which, that's also a form of emotional eating, just on the positive side, where I'm like, oh, I'm going to reward myself. And so I was able to better be like, oh, I kind of had this urge to eat more or have a snack or celebrate. But being able to quantify it, of the feedback of, if I did, I would see it on the scale. Or I would start to feel it, like, physically. I'm like, oh, I feel full, like too full. So that was a good part of that journey, to be able to recognize like what are those triggers or those inputs, because now I feel much better equipped of navigating that to push myself to the next level.
Yeah. And even looking at your sheet here, like the calories that I set you at the start and the macros I set you at the start, we have not changed at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's continued to work. And I think, a couple of lessons within that, we went from the hand method that worked, and you said that, you're overestimating. Then we evolved to the scale so we could be a little bit more specific. And then more recently, we had the conversation about value for calories that you're getting. So, fat intake was quite high just due to the foods that you were consuming. So we've refined that a little bit and swapped some things around. So again, we're able to get more value for the calories, more food value for the calories that we have, so that we can stay fuller and obviously, not as hungry. So even that sort of like step-by-step journey that we didn't necessarily need to go straight into tracking food, like the way that you were doing it worked. But then there was okay, on your comment, there was okay, this is working. Is there more that I can do to get more from this? And then again, okay, this is working. Is there more that we can do to get more from this? Because you were mentioning obviously being hungry. So even that, the lessons through that, and you said you're still on the nutritional journey. So what would you think of your biggest lessons, apart from the lattes, which we'll talk about at a different time? What are the lessons within that?
Well, now it's kind of been fine tuning a bit of, all right, I identify more when the emotional, like when I'm feeling an urge to eat from an emotional side of the house, and that's much better controlled, where I'm like, oh, no, I don't need to celebrate with this food or that. I'll just have my normal protein macros with my meal and call it good. To navigate, I mean, the fall was fun. Is went to Belfast and spent a week and a half after the event just traveling with my wife and just having a vacation. And my goal was to not put on a ton of weight and even continue the deficit. And I think I came back a few pounds heavier, but I'd been in Ireland for, I think, almost 3 weeks total. And I came back just a few pounds heavier, which to me, that was a victory within itself. And then I was ramping up to run a marathon 2 weeks later. And then last year I didn't do any carb loading. This year I did.
You did not take my advice on the carb loading.
I didn't do your style of carb loading. I just figured if it wasn't protein, it counted as a carb. So I ate like 2 gigantic pancakes one morning, which are the size of plates at this place I go to. I think I had pizza, pasta.
My specific recommendation was eat the normal food that you do. Don't eat junk food. You want to fuel yourself and have readily available nutrients, but you just completely sacked that off and sent it in terms of calories.
Yeah. And I think I had put on 9 pounds in 2 days. And then from the time I started the marathon that morning and I got done, I was down 6 pounds. And then I think it was
loss tips.
Yeah. And then I think it was midweek. I think it was just shy of a week. I was back to the weight before I did the carb loading. And I mean, that was kind of neat to see that. At first, seeing the numbers, I kind of started to be like, oh man, did I just sack all the progress I made? And that's kind of where I've continued that nutrition side of it, is trying not to get discouraged when I look at the scale. Because then coming out of Belfast, I set a goal to get down to 205 for total weight before going into a muscle adding phase and consulting with you. So if I saw that number go up, that's the opposite direction. But I also knew we had Thanksgiving coming up, and which ends up being like two events, just with the 2 sides of the family, and then rolling right into the Christmas holiday and New Year's. And usually I do consume quite a bit of food in those holidays. But Thanksgiving, it wasn't as much eating as previous years, and I did come out heavier. I think 10 pounds actually. But it was really, I felt better about getting back down to where I was before. Like those 10 pounds, I want to say it was like a week and a few days maybe, or maybe it's a week and a half. But what helped is having a better grasp of not freaking out. Like, oh, you know what? I did eat a lot of this food, but if I get back to my steps, get my cardio in, get my lifts in, and then start controlling my nutrition, it's all right. It'll work itself out. And then I was pushing to get to 220 by the end of the year. And I got to 221 at one point. And then, I also had a trip down to Georgia for a military reunion type event, which I ate more calories. But again, it was a different perspective where I wasn't just eating the food because that's what you do when you get together. It was enjoying it as part of the experience, which it wasn't just me being a big guy consuming as much food. So it was more enjoyable because I actually treated that as part of the experience, was enjoying the extra food or the larger steak and dinner rolls and all that good stuff. But then since I had lost 40 some odd pounds, and now I'm in like this final 20, 25 that I'm pretty lean compared to where I have been in previous years. So now these pounds are not just going to jump right off. And even at coming out of Christmas, I've basically been from 229 to 222 on this roller coaster now for probably back to Thanksgiving. And I think the journey I'm on is recognizing that it's not like an all or none, pass fail. And I think I mentioned to you at one of my check-ins, it was, I'm always hungry. And you're like, well, it's the Hunger Games. That's part of the deal if you want to get to an elite level of body fat composition. So I was like, okay. But then it's probably 3 weeks ago, I started to hit this point where it's single digit temperature here. There's snow outside. So cardio outside is not quite as easy. And then with the holiday, so it was harder to get my output levels between steps and cardio and lifting in. But I started to recognize if I swapped out full eggs with egg whites, swap in more chicken for beef and pork, I was getting my protein in at 1,900 calories, 2,000 calories. I could get all my grams of protein I needed. And then something switched where I would hit that and I wasn't as hungry as I had been. It ended up being 2,200 now is kind of where I get to where I had the same hunger had I been at 2,400 2 months ago, which is now fascinating to me of, okay, so if I can hold this and not snack in the fridge tonight, because this last week, I think I had 0 cardio minutes. I got 2 lifts in because I was a little sore and we're giving myself a little bit of a breather, but I still dropped, I think, 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds across the week. But that's now I'm getting more comfortable figuring out how do I manage my calories in if I've got a lower level of calories out. And recognizing getting to that 220 pound mark is not the end of the world. I'm kind of glad I didn't hit it in the sense that it's forced me to get repetitions in on the nutrition side. If I had just gotten it doing what I was doing, probably would have been counterproductive in the sense that I wasn't truly navigating that lack of burn calories with the calories in, and just being aware through all the check-in sheets. I was able to better be oh, okay, this isn't easy. The pounds are harder to get off, and to not get frustrated and let that discourage me versus just, I view it as it's miles 16 through 22 or something on the marathon. It's going to be harder, but it's the nutrition challenge and it's a lot of mental. And those are repetitions that are hard to get unless you run you got to run 15 miles to get to 16.
Yeah.
So if you think about repetitions in a place where you're uncomfortable, it's hard to get to. So you get less repetition. So I'm at that phase now where it's definitely harder on the nutrition side, but it's in some ways fun because I'm in a position that I'm getting the repetitions in a place that it's not the same place as, a month ago or 2 months ago or 3 months ago.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the part of that is like, essentially the more body fat that you have to lose, the easier it is. Like if you think about percentages, it's much easier at the start, and now we're at the difficult stage. There also is the element that, we sort of touched on, but obviously with the reintroduction of strength training and then even ramping that up a little bit more after the marathon, there will be an element of muscle gain within that. So, if we were looking at if we were able to look at total amount of body fat lost in pounds versus, what the scale says, there will be a fluctuation in terms of like overall body composition. But I think within that, your points are valid. Like 3-week vacation. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that the event was vacation, but you came to the event. You were fed at the event. Then vacation after that, a couple of other trips, and then obviously the holidays. There was no over restriction, but there was also no like over consumption unintentionally. It was all very intentional, and we spoke about it before all of the events, and we had the conversation. I'm like, look, you're on it all of the rest of the time. So if you're going to go and enjoy a weekend, with the military buddies and whatever else, like, don't think that you can't enjoy the food. Just be conscious of what you consume before that and try and balance things out over the week. So there's been no over restriction, and we've been able to make solid progress within that.
Yeah. And that's been helpful. Just the, well, one, like I've always, for a long time, I can do anything I want to if I'm willing to accept the consequences. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if anything in life, like you can do whatever the heck you want, but generally there's always consequences. And if you're willing to accept those, like, then I don't want to live with regret on decisions I make. But then layer on top of that, kind of the banking the calories piece of, well, if I'm going to eat a little bit more on Saturday, why don't I just eat a little bit less through the week? Mm-hmm. And at the first, it's like getting repetitions in. I remember the first week I tried to do that. I think it was 4th of July, I want to say. And I did not nail it. It was better, but I think my average was still above for the week.
I can tell you. And then, I want to get into the details of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was better, but I don't think I want to say I still came over the total.
Average. So calories are set for anybody who wants additional context at 2,400. Average for the week was 2,700.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not ideal, but not a total shit show.
Yeah. And like, had I not been banking, like that week probably would have been 3,200. Like I sat down when I was at a barbecue place. I think it was during the summer. And I again, having the feedback from yourself and the tracking, I was able to sit down and I think I just had like pulled pork and some beef brisket, but just the protein, not any of the sides or anything. But I sat down and I compared it to what I would have normally ordered. Like I would have had an appetizer, maybe 2, just to like try what they have on the menu. Mm-hmm. I would have ordered whatever meal it was that had like some type of carb side, like a bread or a roll. I probably would have had 2 beers. So long story short, I added up. It would have been like 3,400 calories in that single meal. It had been the previous approach.
So people are like, I've only eaten once today. I'm like, yeah, but you've eaten 2 people's calories.
Yeah, exactly. And since I never really tracked calories a whole lot, I didn't recognize that. So it's been a good exercise. Again, those repetitions of, all right, here's what I would have done. And then when you look at it, you're like, oh, wow, that is a huge difference. So I didn't nail the banking of the calories during 4th of July, but to me, it's as long as you get those repetitions in and you view it as just that, like, all right, cool. I didn't nail it the first time, but this isn't the last time. Mm-hmm. And now Thanksgiving, I don't think I nailed it either, but I was closer.
No, I mean, well, yeah. So the actual week of Thanksgiving, 2,600 on the average. So better, yes.
Got better. And I think I tried the bank
You
when I
also
went down to
lost. You also
Georgia.
lost a pound and a half. So I mean,
Yeah. Well, I started to post marathon is when I started to kind of juggle because I knew I was going to have a recovery phase. So I was recognizing that if I wanted to continue my deficit, but I was going to have less output, I had to start bringing my input, like how much calories I was consuming down. So I started to practice all right, if I can get my protein goal in and be at 2,200 calories, can I call it a day and not rummage through the fridge that night? So that's been probably a 2.5 month phase now, which kind of goes hand in hand with the banking of the calories. Because if I'm under my 2,400, just because I don't have that urge to eat and I don't need to because I hit my macros, like, cool. Why not take the progress? And then if I get to the weekend and I got some room to spare, and now I'm also not sweating it where I'm like, oh yeah, I just happen to have extra calories anyway. So it's been a good exercise and a good tool in the toolkit to figure out still. But that's where I'm at now, where I'm trying to get much more consistent and better at that. And that's where it's swapping out foods. I've been tinkering with, I know I can get all my food in by like 5 p.m., 5:30. But then I get to about 7 and I'm not sleeping yet and I get really hungry. So I started to do is pre-plan my calories where I might have a shake, like my whey protein with some oatmeal or oats in it with maybe some PB Fit now instead of the peanut butter. Trying to optimize the calories every spot I can. And that's been helpful because now it's already planned for. Like I already accounted for those calories and it can take that edge off. So for the most part, that's been helping too. But
again, just for additional context about you saying about lower output. So essentially looking from week 1 up until I think the marathon was week 16-ish, anywhere between 185 minutes of cardio up to 450 minutes of cardio to then 79, 45, 45, 60. So like a big impact in terms of the amount of output, which was definitely needed given the circumstances. But I want to touch a little bit on the conversation that we had sort of the last couple of days of the year, because obviously we were conscious of wanting to hit that 220 mark. And we still had one card that we hadn't played. And essentially it was a pretty honest conversation. It's like, we can do it if you fast and don't eat, but you're just doing it for the sake of seeing a number on the scale. It will go back up after that. And it was the right response in terms of just what you were saying about the education around nutrition and how you were feeling and the journey you're on and essentially your relationship with food. It was the better way to do it, to sort of, if it happens, it happens with the calories that I'm on. We were close, it could have happened. Or do we just fast for the, essentially the last couple of days of the year just to tick that box, and you decided not to? I think that was the right choice. And, even your feedback or my feedback to you on your check-in, like, I would say now that we're into the new year and the holidays and all the chaos is gone, like we're days away from that 220 mark. So not necessarily in 2025, but we will definitely hit it. And that's, to your point, it's like, it's not the last. Do you know what I mean? It's not like if I don't hit 220 by the end of the year, that's it, I'm done. It's like, okay, we got a couple of days, we're right.
Yeah. Well, and I was working through recognizing, because I'd started to, like, I knew my cardio was down, the volume. And I've been lifting a lot, trying to lift heavier and dealing with some previous injuries. Like I could tell my body was adapting still, where I can't push myself 3-4 lifts a week quite yet, with the way my body's responding. So I knew to reach that goal, I had to reduce the calories in, still hit my protein and macro goals without, just to do it the right way. So I recognized, well, and with it being literally over the holidays, it's like, okay, well, can I get comfortable and navigate how to get 2,200 calories for the day and call it good, knowing that technically Ben says I can have 2,400, but that's based on a high level of output. So I was working through those repetitions, and some days better than others. But I started to have that 220 weight goal as kind of like that measure where I'm like, all right, less output, but I ate this many calories. The number moved this much. And I was like, oh, well, shoot. All right. I've either got to put more output in, or if I know I'm going to be stuck driving and traveling this day, then I got to reduce the calories. And I started to realize I wasn't going to hit that number unless I did the 3 or 4 day fast. But I realized I've done fasting before. Like I did a 4-day fast. What was it? August? Might have been. I think it was before Belfast. And I've done it previous years. So I knew I could do it. So I was just going to do that to hit a number versus the repetitions I was getting from that nutrition sense of like, how do I consume less and be comfortable with it, or try to find ways to kind of hack my daily routine to have that shake towards the end of the day to take the edge off. Well, to me, it was much more valuable because now coming into January, I feel like I've got more tools in the nutrition toolkit of like, okay, now I feel like I'm better equipped to start pushing the weight goal versus just hitting I know a 4-day fast isn't an easy button, but I've done that before. I'm not putting in those reps where now I put in more reps. Like last week, like I said, I had 0 cardio, 2 lifts, and I still dropped 1.5 pounds or something, 2 pounds. But it's because I was managing my input much better. So that to me is, since I'm on this longer journey of it's okay to sacrifice that, because it just showed me what I don't want to do nutrition wise. That's kind of how I approach a lot of like even the marathon running or whatever the lifting. Like I'd rather, like right now I'm rebuilding my bench press, my movement. Even though the weight's super light, I'd rather figure out fundamentally what I have to do to get everything aligned and then start like putting in the right reps for the final push. So I wouldn't have thought that was what I was going to learn on the nutrition side, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But it's been a fun part of the journey right now of how that works, managing the emotions, the mental side of it. So
give me then two of your biggest lessons from the past 6 months.
Oh, 2. Well, we didn't talk a lot about it, but the accountability in the community has been like a big part of it. Just from the coaching perspective of knowing like, all right, I got to put this in my sheet. This is what happened, whether it's what Ben told me to do or not. Like I'm going to own up to it, and I need him to give me the feedback, whether I want to hear it or not. And then the community has definitely been what I was hoping for, of a lot of good people, all with their own respective goals and different spots on the journey, but yet still supportive of each other. And it's just helping each person be the respective best version of themselves. So I don't know if that was a lesson learned as much as a validation of like, it's pretty awesome. I think lessons learned is probably it's easy on the physical side to be like, oh yeah, I started to cramp up at mile, whatever, or the last few miles of this half marathon definitely sucked, or I couldn't lift, this many pounds on this lift, or I'm getting pain when I do this. The physical side of health, there's always a like easy feedback loop, where the nutrition side, like it's there, but it's not as obvious. And I think that's been the biggest lesson learned, is being more in tuned or aware of the emotional and the mental side of what you eat, when you eat it, how much. And if you have a system to give you that feedback, it's there the same way in the physical sense. You just have to kind of, be able to pay attention and start to see that. And that is kind of a really big lesson learned, that it's definitely there, and there's definitely knobs that you can start tweaking. So at my current weight, I'm lighter than I've been in like 2001 or something, maybe even 2000. So we're talking 25 years I haven't been at the weight I'm at currently. So
how do you feel? Like, obviously, you've like I said, you've done training, you've done all sorts of different types of training. So it's not a case of you've not been physically fit, but like comparatively being at the weight you are now, like how do you feel day to day?
So I ran that marathon last year at 2:49. And I think this year, technically, I ran it at 2:42 because I put on the 9 pounds carb loading. But I probably was at more of like a 2:30, 2:31. And today being around any from 2:20 to 2:28. I literally feel like I've gone running this winter on the trail, or I've started to do sprints to my sauna to get like some movement in. Micro dosing some sprints as I'm tinkering with just moving. But I just literally feel lighter. We're talking like a 47 pound drop. The movement side, like even I had a pretty decent squat to begin with, like in terms of mobility wise, but even just being a little bit lighter, the movements feel lighter. My clothes are all baggy. Like literally this weekend, my wife told me not to wear a pair of pants because they were too baggy. So, even physically it feels good to know like, oh yeah, there's definitely progress, and it's cool having baggy clothes. So yeah, physically feel great, even emotionally, kind of viewing the food of that fuel source and not just eating for reasons I don't know, but now being a little bit more, now it kind of feels good to be like, okay, I think I need to eat more carbs because my body just needs some energy. Mm-hmm. Like I pushed myself hard this week, and now I am going to have some more carbs that just get the energy up. Versus like, oh, I think I would just want to eat because something didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. And I'm just pondering reality. So it feels good to be in that spot too.
Good, fair. And then I will imagine we'll do one of these in another 6 months, and we'll be at the year mark. So we'll set it now live on the internet of what you want to achieve. I know obviously we have the 220 insights, and we have a further goal of 205, but within the next 6 months, it takes us up to June of this year then. Like, what do you want to achieve between now and then?
Well, I should be, by then I'm hoping that we've hit the 205 mark, and I'm actually then on the upside of how do I increase my calories? Like, I think you mentioned, like, we get to that number and then it's all right. You'll be in a surplus phase, mm-hmm. where you'll have more calories, so you won't be hungry as much, like trying to like make me feel good. I think that like the deficit will end sometime. But I think I replied back like, yeah, but I've got abs now that I kind of want to keep now that I have them. So I think in 6 months, hopefully I'll be navigating, or I will be navigating having more calories to fuel the bulking, to add the muscle back on that we want to get to that next goal. From a physique perspective. Come then, I'm hoping to have the 1,000. I was looking at the Rogue 1,000-pound club of what I need to do to just knock it out in my garage, like record it myself one day and just get it over with, because I think I'm pretty close to it.
You just want
I just want to do that, get it done, so then I can move on to figure out the 1,250 club. So hopefully I have that 1,000-pound club done in 6 months. I won't have run a marathon by then. I'm debating running 2 in October of next year, but it's funny now, a lot of it is I don't put a lot of stock in like how fast I can run. That I've always just kind of been like, well, if I lose weight and I run more, like I will just run faster. That's just the way it is. So I never put a number to it. I would like to, beat my times from the previous. I'm running a few races again this year, May and June. So hopefully I'll beat my times on those half marathons. But I really don't have a specific time in mind. Since some goals like that to me it's not as important. But yeah, I think 6 months, trying to quantify the food side too, is I think hopefully like the emotional eating is probably always going to be a thing, but just being pretty well equipped to not let that be the reason that I just get off kilter completely. So I think in 6 months, hopefully the nutrition side will be a lot more like routine, like navigating the hunger, the fueling, the emotional eating, and knowing I'm going to need this many calories today. I think hopefully building on the phase I'm in right now of adjusting it based on like the output to hit my goals will be just like routine, like been there, done that. It's a tool in the toolkit now. Now it's just very much, what do I need to put on this much weight? Or I kind of want to try carb loading again this next year.
And the way that I suggest,
the way that you advise, because it seemed to work, but I imagine it could work a lot better.
I would say, and I'll call it now, I would say we'll be 205 within the first 2 weeks of April.
2 weeks of April. Okay.
And I would say when we catch up, we'll record one of these in June at some point. I would say calories will be sitting between 3,000, 3,200, and we'll be navigating a different set of problems. The focus in that and the challenge moving into a surplus is, if you talk about feedback loops, we don't have that same feedback loop because up until now and up until then, we are so focused on weight and we're so focused on measurements, and they fluctuate quite a bit. Like you know exactly that if you eat more, your weight's going to be up, and you can see it sort of progress quite quickly. The problem you start to face whenever you move into surplus is you're focused on numbers in terms of strength and lifts, and that does not move as quick. I know that you said, did you want to keep your abs? And we will keep you as lean as we possibly can, but there's a different set of problems that we will touch on next time around. But I would say place your bets now. First 2 weeks of April will be 205, and we'll be sitting in around 3,200 calories come June. So you can look forward to that.
Awesome. Yeah. If I were to guess just dealing with previous injuries, like going on the strength route, the recovery, I do a decent job of recovery between mobility and sauna usage and some other stuff, but I'm going to have to up my game on that because I'm already feeling it from the stuff that I'm doing currently. So that'll probably be, I don't know what those are, but that's part of the journey of like, I know those areas, there's probably going to be the lessons learned that I have to navigate. But I'm looking forward to seeing what that is.
Sweet. Cool. Well, cliffhanger for everybody. Tune in 6 months time to find out what happened. Thanks for taking the time, dude. I think this will be a good touch point for us to look back on in another 6 months time. And as always, thanks for being a part of this and sort of raising the standards of everybody else, because I know that you have definitely done that within the team. Catch you next time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Appreciate all your help, and we'll keep on rocking. But I'm going to set a mental goal that I need to beat the 205 mark before.
We'll be having that. It'll be March, and we'll be like, we're 3 pounds away. We're going to have a fast.
Now I got to beat that goal, because now I can't. I got to try to get ahead of the goal that you set. So that's good. That's how I operate. So
sweet, cool. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Cheers, dude.
Yep. Later.
Damn.